guys? Coach Sass here, Sweet Spot Pitching. How are you? Today we're going to talk about what I think is one of the most devastating pitches in the game, and that's the changeup. And tell you a little story about what it did for my career. But if you watched my video on what is good pitching, you'll know that I am a huge advocate of understanding how to get a hitter off balance by working fast and slow. And the changeup's exactly that, right? It's meant to look exactly like your fastball, but be about 10 to 12 miles an hour slower. So in 2000, I was lucky enough to be in big league spring training. And at the time, it was Maddox, Millwood, Smoltz, Glavin, and myself. So some pretty good company in that starting rotation. And with a few days before camp broke, they called me in, Bobby Cox and Sherholtz and the whole crew called me in and basically said, we love it. We love what you're doing as a starter, but you're going to need another pitch, because at the time I only threw a fastball and a power breaking ball. So in the big leagues, you need to have at least 3 pitches, if not 4, in your arsenal to be a good quality starter in the big leagues. So they asked me to develop a changeup. So I'm down in Orlando throwing a bullpen, and I'm working on my change. I'm trying to develop it. I've got my catcher he's set up on the outer half. I got my catcher working inner half, and I'm trying different grips. And as I'm throwing it, I hear from behind me, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I turn around, and it's none other than Greg Maddox. And I only say that because he's such a power figure in the pitching game and what he did in his career and for the game itself. So Greg asked me, what are you doing? And I said, what do you mean? I'm working on my changeup. He said, well, what is it? What is it meant to do? I said, well, it's meant to look exactly like your fastball, but be about 10 to 12 miles an hour slower, right? To get that hitter off balance. And he said, exactly. Then why are you busy throwing it outside, missing off the corner? Why are you busy throwing it inside, missing? He said, if it's meant to be a pitch that creates contact, off balance contact, then throw it right down the middle. Changed my entire career, because every changeup I threw, I would throw right down the middle. So it became an absolute powerhouse weapon for me. So 1-0 after a hard fastball, changeup right down the middle. Guy sitting there dead red, thinks here comes that fastball, looks like the fastball. Oof. I get a weak grounder to short, 1 out. 2-0, right down the middle, right? Because nothing's worse than throwing a changeup, trying to execute to a location and having it fall off the dish and the guy just spits on it, right? We've accomplished nothing in that situation. We want that hitter to think that you just made a massive mistake and delivered him a cookie right down the middle. But what he doesn't realize is that it's going to be 10 to 12 miles an hour slower and he's going to be off balance. So please keep that in mind. It changed the entire, do not have your catcher setting up inside and outside for a changeup. You want contact. You also want the ability, because we're not machines. You know, if I'm center cut and I miss 4 or 5 inches either way, still a strike if he winds up taking it. But we're looking to create contact, soft, off balance contact with a changeup. And the other thing that I teach is that when you throw a 4-seamer, and we've talked about the grip, right? You've got 4-seam, and it's called a 4-seamer because you actually see the 4 seams rotate. As you get up in levels, right, guys can recognize spin. And if you're not throwing your changeup with the same rotation as your fastball coming off of it, then guys will recognize that, and it's not going to be as effective. So the one thing you can do is 4-seam fastball. What you're going to do, 1 down, 1 over, 1 up, and that's it. There is your good circle change. You can put your thumb underneath. You don't have to put it here, whatever's more comfortable. But what you're really going to do is these 2 fingers here on the side are your speed control, and these become rotation, and you're going to drive through it, and you're going to have that full arm whip all the way through. Give it just everything you've got, and realize that when it comes out, for all the guys that have played basketball and understand that shot right here with that wrist, it's the same thing. You really want to drive that hand down and then let your arm pronate, meaning the thumb goes down. But we're trying to create maximum backspin, and that's what's going to create the differential in speed. And we're looking right down the middle, guys. I'll tell you one thing. If you get a left-handed hitter up as a righty pitcher, and you're up 1-2, and you've kind of set them up with some fastballs, and you want to locate outer third with a 2-seam changeup, that might be the only time that you're looking for a strikeout in that situation. But every other time, just trust me on this. If you throw a good changeup, you're throwing it right down the middle, because you want contact. You want him to swing, but you want him to be off balance when he does so. So the other thing, right, I'm throwing a two-seam fastball, right? I'm working a left-handed hitter. My two-seamer's really cutting well. It's looking good. Same exact sequence, right? One down, one over, one up. And there it is. Same thing. But now what we're doing is we're creating the same rotation, right? We have to have that. You guys have got to develop that, because I'm telling you, as you get up in levels, it's going to be a huge detriment if your spin is different on your change than your fastball. So 4-seam fastball, one down, one over, one up, right? Now, something else to keep in mind. The 4-seam fastball, just like your 4-seam changeup, 4-seam fastball, if we're throwing it right with proper mechanics, getting that chest out early, staying right here behind that ball, shouldn't have movement. The only thing you'll see on that 4-seam change is you should see it dip a little bit. You should see your catcher's glove go down like that, and that's how you know you really got through it well. But if you're throwing a changeup to start an at-bat, most of the time it's better to start with that 4-seam change because it's got less movement. It's a lot easier to control. So if you're thinking this guy's sitting dead red and I want to jump out, I'm going to throw an 0-0 changeup, 4-seam right down the middle. Good rotation. And like I said, I've got 4 or 5 inches on either side if I miss, where it's still going to be a strike. You guys have got to start putting this in your arsenal. And I'll tell you this, guys. I don't teach any of my clients a breaking ball until they're in high school. I think it's a massive problem that we have. You watch the Little League World Series, these kids are 12 throwing 60% breaking balls. It's a disaster, and it's not beneficial to long-term growth or stability, right? You want to be fastball changeup all the way into high school, then worry about developing that. Because the more you have a curveball, the more you rely on the curveball, the less you're throwing your fastball, the more you're maxing out your ability to create arm speed, arm whip, and velocity over the career of your pitching. So 4-seam fastball, 4-seam change, 2-seam fastball, 2-seam change. And guys, I'm telling you, learn it, love it, and execute it down the middle, knowing that the whole purpose of this is just to get that hitter off balance, create early contact, and I promise you, it will be an absolute weapon for you, because when we're behind in the count, hitters, ask any good hitter, they cannot wait. They're sitting dead red, and that's what we want them to do. As we bring in a pitch that's 10 or 12 miles an hour slower, get them out on that front foot, have them commit to the swing, soft contact, easy outs. That's one of the ways I can tell you guys. It's one of the most effective pitches in the game, and we need to start developing it when we're 10, 11, and 12. As we develop our fastballs, we want to make sure we're replicating that rotation with our changeup. Okay, guys, make sure like, subscribe. If we've got questions, let me know in the comments. I can't wait to see you in the next video. We've got a lot more good stuff coming out soon. Don't miss it. Thank you.